and mind. But speech and mind is pretty much everything. There isn't really anything apart from that, and both in public and in private. So not just showing off, but actually you really believe this, you really do these things. I think, why don't I set aside my own ideas and just go along with these venerables' ideas? This is really important piece of advice in an organization like the BF, because when you sit on the committee of the BF, on the whatever, then it is so easy to think that your ideas are the most important ones, yeah? And then you're willing to argue over these ideas, and you argue because I know what is needed. But actually, and this is one of the nice things I learned from Ajahn Brahmali, is that the implementation of ideas are more important than actually what you choose. We don't know what the result is going to be of this choice or that choice. So sometimes, and even if it is a worse choice, actually doesn't matter as long as we can live in harmony. So this is kind of a nice idea. Okay, I'm just going to do my job, do what is required, and if other people set the agenda, that's okay. It's always dangerous when egos get involved, because when egos get involved, that is where arguments tend to start to happen. So put your ego to one side. The ego is a bloody nuisance. Is that right? The egos are problems, yeah, problematic. Yeah. So put them to one side. Okay. And that's what I do. Though we are different in body, sir, we are one in mind, or so it seems. They are kind of just working together in harmony, even though they are different people. And the Venerable Nandiya and Kimbala spoke likewise, and they added, that's how we live in harmony, appreciating each other without quarreling, blending like milk and water, regarding each other with kindly eyes. Good, Anuruddha and friends, but I hope you are living heedfully, keen and diligent. Diligent, keen and resolute. Appamata, the word down here, it means like heedful, careful, circumspect, using wisdom. Yeah, diligent is too much just work. Yeah. This is more like being wise about things. Yeah, this word here. It's a very important word, appamada, which you may have heard, those of you who have been around for a while. So that is the idea, appamada, which means to be wise. Atapino over here, this word over here, don't do that, this word. This means like being energetic and exerting yourself, and pahitata also means exertion. So these two words mean exertion, but that word here means being wise or being careful or circumspect. So this is the idea of heedful. Yeah, heedful is like to be watch out, basically. That's the idea. So this is my preferred translation. I would say, I hope you're living heedful. Keen is okay, and then maybe diligent for the last one. So what does that mean, to live diligently on the Buddhist path, yeah, with the heedfulness and wisdom? What does that mean? And you will be surprised again what that means. This is what it means. Indeed, sir, we live diligently, but how do you live in this way? In this case, sir, whoever returns first from alms round prepares the seats and puts out the drinking water and the rubbish bin. Putting out a rubbish bin, that's how you are diligent. Yeah. Kind of fascinating here. If there's anything left over, whoever returns last eats it if they like. Otherwise, they throw it out where there is little that grows, or where there is no crops, might be a better translation, or drop it into water that has no living creatures. Then they put away the seeds, drinking water, and rubbish bin, and sweep the refectory. If one sees the pot of water for washing, drinking, or the toilet is empty, they set it out. And if he can't do it, he summons another with a wave of the hand, and they set it up by lifting it with their hands, but we don't break into speech for that reason. Every 5 days, we sit together the whole night and discuss the teachings. That is how we live diligently, keen and resolute. So the idea here is basically you just do your job. Yeah, you do your job. You don't speak a lot unless you talk about Dhamma, which you do every 5 days. And and then you are kind. That's kind of the first part we saw. You live in harmony. Yeah, so this is how you live diligently according to this. And this is the foundation for all the practice, because then, good Anuruddha and friends, but as you live diligently like this, have you achieved any superhuman qualities, any distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a meditation at ease? So this is where we get to the real profound things, right? This is where the real results of the path come in. And so what we have seen so far is like the foundation, and based on that foundation, the results come. And you will see how simple that foundation is, right? It's just about living well, living with kindness, living in harmony, not talking too much, doing your duties. Yes, very, very simple. And that is the entire foundation for achieving these superhuman states. Isn't that very interesting? I find these things so interesting because it is, in many ways, I think, very counterintuitive. People often think that, I must meditate every day, and and I must do all of these kind of things, and I have to, I don't know what you have to do, chant for 2 hours, or I don't know what you think. But remember that it's the kindness of the heart that really is the core of this whole thing. If you can live like that and without too much distractions in life, which is easy to say when you're a monk, not so easy when you're a layperson, but anyway, if you can do that, then that is really what it is. And the superhuman qualities, they arise from that. And this sutta is one of the places where it is so obvious that this is what is happening here. So what are these superhuman qualities? First of all, I would translate this a little bit differently. I would say these uttari manusa dhamma, these are the superhuman qualities. And so I would say superhuman qualities and knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. Yeah, two different things instead of putting it into one line as it does here. So I would say, have you achieved any superhuman qualities, comma, or any or distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones? They refer to the same thing, but they're different words for the same thing. I don't think they are one idea. So what are the superhuman qualities? Why are they called superhuman? And the reason is because they are beyond the ordinary human experience. Ordinary human experience is the five senses, the things that we normally, the world that we normally are immersed in. That's the kind of the ordinary human experience. A superhuman experience is that which is beyond the five senses. And what is it that's beyond the five senses? Well, it is the four jhanas and the four stages of awakening here. Yeah, this is the standard ideas, what is beyond the five senses. Four jhanas, four stages of awakening here. And these are always taught together. Yeah, the four jhanas, the four stages of awakening, they are like a set of 8 qualities that constitute the superhuman experiences. So the jhanas are basically on par with the awakening qualities. Yeah, they are on that same kind of level. The same depth, the same profundity, the similar kind of happiness, similar ideas about letting go of the world and leaving the world behind. And that's an extraordinarily useful thing to know, because there's a lot of argument in the world. Well, what are these jhana states? Yeah? Are they, you just sit back, close your eyes, you feel a bit of bliss, and that's the first jhana? Is that the first jhana? You can still think and ponder and kind of contemplate. Is that the first jhana? The point is that they are really profound states. Yeah, they are on par with the stages of awakening here. And this gives you an insight, an indication of what these things are when you understand how they are used in the suttas in this way. So superhuman qualities, that is said in the suttas that when you give up the five senses, you come to the end of the world. The world is the five senses. When you give up that world, you reach the end of the world. Yeah, Lokanta. There's a famous monastery called the Lokanta Vihara. Have you heard about the Lokanta Vihara? No, okay, this is where a monk called Bhante Sujato, he lives in the Lokanta Vihara, the end of the world. That's where he lives. That's what he thinks. Actually lives in the middle of the city. It's a bit of a there's a bit of a misnomer. It's kind of in the middle of the world. Anyway, actually, next time I see him, I will tease him about that. Yeah, living. See what he says. So these are the Uttarimanusa Dhamma, the superhuman qualities beyond ordinary human states. Another word for this is the Alang-arya Nanadasana Visesa that you see there. And this word means, Alang-arya means worthy of the noble ones. Arya is the nobles, right? And bye-bye. So it's worthy of the noble ones. In other words, again, these qualities are worthy of the noble ones. These are the people on the 4 stages of awakening, right? So when we talk about the 4 jhanas, again, they are worthy of the noble ones. These are the qualities that the noble people in the world, the arahants, they practice these kind of things. Yeah. And so again, there's something very profound. The second thing which is interesting here, you will see in that compound, it says Alang Arya at the beginning. Yeah, you have Alang, yeah, and then you have Arya, right? Arya, yeah, and then you have this here, Jnana, and then you have Dasana, so just after it, Jnana Dasana. Now, Jnana Dasana means knowledge and vision. And knowledge and vision are the usual words in the suttas for insight. When you have knowledge and vision, it's called Yata Bhuta Jnana Dasana. Knowledge and vision according to reality is one of the standard phrases in the suttas. Yeah, so here you find that the 4 jhanas are called Jnana Dasana, knowledge and vision. Which is again kind of extraordinary here, because we are so used to hearing in the Buddhist world that on the one hand you have samatha meditation, which is peace, which leads to the jhanas and samadhi. On the other hand, you have vipassana meditation that leads to insight. But this is saying that the jhanas are a kind of jnana dasana. These are knowledge and visions. Yeah, so in other words, when you have the jhanas, guaranteed you're going to have insight. Guaranteed you're going to see things according to reality. It comes with these jhana states. Yeah, very, very fascinating. And sometimes it's like you have to read the suttas twice. You are so brainwashed when you come to the suttas that you don't see these things. And you say, wait, what's going on here? Yeah, it's one of those strange things in life, how brainwashed we are, how difficult it is to see things afresh. You have to kind of stop and interrogate the text a little bit to actually see what's going on. And then the last one is visesa, which means distinction. In other words, something special, right? Something high. So these are these special qualities that we're trying to achieve. Yeah, they are really. This is the kind of the very end of the path. What this path is all pointing to. And then you have the very last one here, pasu viharo. Yeah, pasu viharo means like dwelling at ease. Yeah, kind of dwelling, meditation at ease, meditation and comfort. It's a very kind of understated word. Yeah, if you think that your meditation is going well, at least you should have the first jhana. That's when that's when you are at ease. Anything before that, you're still kind of struggling. You don't really understand ease yet. But when you get to this point, that's when you are at ease. These are the things you want to look out for. When you have this, then there is a consolation to the holy life, to the spiritual life. These are the consolations. So pasu viharo, a dwelling at ease. Anyway, so this is what he's asking them. Yeah, this is what the Buddha asked. Have you achieved any of these things? Yeah, and what do they reply? And this is what they reply. There's another sutta where they reply, yeah, we got all of that. We got the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. We're all arahants. And the Buddha says, well done, and he goes off. No, but this one sutta is a bit different. It goes as follows. Well, sir, while meditating, heedful, keen, and diligent, we perceive both light and vision of forms. But before long, the light and the vision of forms vanish. We haven't worked out the reason for that. Lights and vision of forms, what is that? Well, this is the thing that is these days often called samadhi nimitta. Yeah, samadhi nimitta is like a light you can see in your mind. When you become incredibly peaceful and still, and you start really enjoying the bliss, you can perceive these lights. And some of you probably have perceived these things already. Yeah, I mean, because there's always some people in a large group that have these kind of experiences. And you will know that at this point that you are starting to enter something fantastic and extraordinarily interesting. Yeah. So, and they appear like lights, and the lights tend to have a particular shape to them, usually just like a circle or something like that. And this is why it's called light and a vision of forms. Yeah. So they have had these experiences, and these are the things that we are trying to experience. Yeah, this is kind of what meditation is guiding you to. Some of you already had them, so we are in the same boat. Yeah, similar to these very advanced monks here, which is kind of nice. Yeah, it is not that far away. It is not impossible to achieve these things. But then they disappear, and the question is, well, why is that? We haven't figured out the reason for that. And then the Buddha says, well, you should work out the reason for that. And then he says, before my awakening, when I was still unawakened but intent on awakening, I too perceived both light and vision of forms. But before long, my light and vision of forms vanished. It occurred to me, what is the cause, what is the reason why my light and vision of forms vanish? Yeah, this is typical of the Buddha. This is the kind of inquiry he does all the time. What is the cause? What is the reason? Trying to understand what is going on. Yeah, and this is also why I suggest at the end of all meditations, evaluate your meditation a little bit. See what's going on. Try to understand why sometimes your meditation is peaceful, other times it's not. Sometimes it's clear, other times it's not. Try to see what's going on there. And as you start to understand that, you will start to guide yourself in your meditation. I should say that light and vision of forms these days we call often samadhi nimitta, the sign of samadhi. In the suttas, the word samadhi nimitta is used differently. In the suttas, the samadhi nimitta is the subject of meditation that you do. So, for example, you're watching a skeleton. The skeleton is called a samadhi nimitta in the suttas. Or watching the breath is called a samadhi nimitta. These are the things that lead to samadhi. These are the object you watch or the subject you watch, whatever you want to call it. So this is used differently, but here it refers specifically to the visions of light and forms. So now the Buddha is going to talk about his path before his awakening. It occurred to me, doubt arose in me. And because of that, my samadhi fell away. Doubt arises in you. One of the 5 hindrances straight away. Why does doubt arise at this particular place? What is going on here? And sometimes it may just be that you don't know how to proceed. You think, what do I do now? I don't know what's next. Do I have some defilements I need to get rid of? What should I do? Should I watch the breath? Should I watch the light? These are all doubts. They are uncertainties. You don't know what to do. And that uncertainty makes the mind waver and makes the mind fall away from samadhi. So next time, you don't ask those questions. You just, okay, I'll just stay with it. I'm not going to ask any questions and see what happens. So this is kind of how you uncover these things in your meditation. Doubt is a very natural part of the path. The way doubt is defined in the sutta, the word here is vicikicca. You can see it over here. The word vicikicca, the way it is defined, is being uncertain about what is skillful and unskillful, what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. You don't really know what are the really pure and good qualities of the mind. And because of that lack of knowledge, when things become very peaceful and quiet, you don't really know what the way forward is, what you should leave behind, where you should go next. And so you get vicikicca, and then before you know it, you are lost your samadhi. When immersion falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. I'll make sure that doubt will not arise in me again. While meditating, heedful, keen and diligent, I perceived both light and visions of forms. Before long, my light and vision of forms vanished. It occurred to me, what's the cause, what's the reason why my light and vision of forms vanished? It occurred to me, loss of focus arose in me. And because of that, my immersion, my samadhi fell away. When immersion falls away, the light and vision of forms vanished. Loss of focus, the Pali word amanasikara, means lack of attention. You're no longer attending, you're no longer focusing on the object. So this might be, for example, you are meditating and there is a sound, there's a noise and the mind goes to the sound. Has that ever happened to anyone? Yeah, happens all the time, right? A very, very natural thing to happen. And even when the meditation goes deep, even though you're kind of deep within, still sounds can still interfere in your meditation. And then the mind goes to the sound. And I think sound is somehow very natural for human mind to go to sound, because one of the areas, if there's something frightening, yeah, if there's something dangerous, sound implies danger. Maybe it's a tiger, yeah, and if it's a tiger, then of course you want not many tigers in Singapore, but you never know, so you better be alert just in case there is a tiger. Yeah. There's a kind of play on words there, because tiger sounds a bit like Thai girl, yeah. There's a kind of a standing joke especially in Thailand monastic circles. They are equally dangerous according to the mythology. So your attention falls away. Yeah? You attend to something else, and it can also be a thought arising in the mind. Sometimes you just a little stray thought comes about, even if you are focusing quite deeply, and the stray thought, and you get interest in that. So you lose your attention on the object. That's kind of the idea here. So in the future, you make sure that you don't allow yourself to get distracted by these things. You stay with the object. You know that all the other stuff is useless. One of the important ways of doing this, when you do, and this is something you can also, for every one of you, is useful to think about in meditation practice, is that the reason why your attention falls away is because something else is interesting to you. Yeah? And very often your thoughts are very interesting. Does anyone here have interesting thoughts? Sometimes the thoughts are not interesting, but we're still interested in them. That's kind of the weird thing. You know what it's like? Thoughts are really crazy, but still you want to go there. But other times they are interesting. Sometimes you feel your mind is becoming a bit powerful, and you can start to solve things in your mind. Yeah, so you really kind of, wow, this is cool. I can resolve some issues and things, and you go there. That the thoughts. At other times you just are so bored, you don't know what to do, and you want to think anything rather than be with your meditation object. Yeah, any kind of crazy thought will do. So it really depends on what the situation is like, whether you what the mind does. But remember, the idea here is to remember that all that thinking is not really going anywhere. That's not where you resolve the future. The reason why we're interested in the thinking mind is because we think we're going to sort out the future. Yeah, these are my problems. If I can resolve them, yes, then I will have everything sorted out. But actually, you don't solve anything in this world, because this world is always more of the same. The thinking mind is always about this world. It's about your problems, about resolving things at work, resolving things in your family, resolving things wherever. Yeah, this is what the thinking mind is about. But this world, there is no solution. Or there is a solution, but it's just temporary, and then another problem is waiting behind to kind of come up behind it. And it just goes on and on and on. That is not where you find the solutions. It's a very powerful insight, because once you get that, you start to realize, actually, I don't want to think about those things. The solution is found on the spiritual path, in peace, in quiet. When the mind becomes peaceful, then I can have some real insights into reality. That is where the solutions are found. The other thing is just more of the same. Yeah, more. That's why we're still here, because we always thought the solution was there, but actually it wasn't there. That's why you kind of got born into this life. There's this beautiful story. And this is an Ajahn Brahm story, of course, because all the stories are Ajahn Brahm stories. I don't pretend to come up with anything new, just the same old, same old. But it's a nice story, and this is the story of the Prime Minister in England back in the 1960s called Harold Macmillan. And this time was when there was a lot of, I think, the Six-Day War in the Middle East. One of those wars with Israel versus all the Arabic states. And they were just slaughtering each other, and people being killed, and things were being blown up, and all of these kind of things. And so Harold Macmillan was asked, I think, on BBC television, so, what do you think about the problem in the Middle East? And he said, there is no problem in the Middle East. Yeah. And that's a kind of a beautiful answer. And then they asked him, well, what do you mean there's no problem in the middle? They're bombing each other, they're killing each other, hundreds of thousands of people are dying, there's just ruins left in certain cities. What do you mean there's no problem? And his answer was, there's no problem, because there's no solution. In other words, what's the point of thinking about things that have no solution? What's the point of wasting your time trying to find a solution when there is no solution? And this is what our lives are like. We try to find solution to problems that don't actually have solutions. And this is kind of exactly what the thinking mind and meditation is about. That is really what it is about. So once that kind of sinks in, then the thinking mind is far less interesting here. This is one of the aspects. The other aspect, of course, is joy and happiness. So you enjoy the meditation. That draws it in. That also makes the thinking mind far less interesting here. So these are the ways of avoiding the amanasikara, the non-attention. Loss of focus. I'll make sure that neither doubt nor loss of focus will arise in me again. While meditating, dullness and drowsiness arose in me. And we have the same thing. So, dullness and drowsiness. This could be, I don't know why this will happen at this point, but you're starting to have some samadhi, but sometimes it can just be the body, that you have eaten too much, or the body does weird things, right? So kind of suddenly the body starts to feel drowsy and dull, and so it affects your meditation as a consequence. So this can happen, and what do you do to avoid that? Well, you energize the mind. You bring up an inspiring object, and that can just be focusing on that nimitta, that light in the right way. That can be sufficient to get you out of that dullness and drowsiness. Or if you need something more, you can kind of reflect on something inspiring, like I talked about before, a sense of gratitude, a sense of the people around you, something good you have done in your life, all of these kind of things. And you come out of dullness and drowsiness. So you can see here that the 5 hindrances are represented. Doubt, dullness and drowsiness, non-attention or lack of focus can be considered like restlessness, because that's really what it is. You're moving away from the object. You make sure that none of these things arise in the future. While meditating, terror arouse in me, or fear, you could say. And because of that fear, the samadhi falls away here. So why would you feel fear in your samadhi? And the reason you feel fear is because you are dealing with things when you go deep into meditation places you have never been before. It's like when you travel somewhere and you have never been to a place, you feel a bit fearful maybe in the new city. You don't know what people are like, whether they're going to take advantage of you or not. You have no idea. But this city of meditation is far more strange and unusual than any ordinary city. And so sometimes you enter things, you do things, your sense of self starts to fade away, and you wonder where this is going to end. What's going to happen to me? I'm disappearing. And that's kind of can be a little bit concerning once you start to see it the first time. The me is disappearing is kind of strange. And the way to deal with that is actually to notice how delightful it is. It is strange in one way, but in another way it is also extremely delightful. And we can see that from the very beginning. When you start to think less in your meditation, the less you think, the less sense of self there is, because the sense of self expresses itself through the thinking mind. Less thinking, less self. And what that means is that actually, wow, not thinking is really nice, much better than thinking. Preserve so much energy, feel really, you feel kind of empowered, you feel peaceful and all these kind of things. And in this way, you start to undermine that sense of self, because you start to understand that actually not having that sense of self is far superior to not to having it. And then there's less terror. You're more able to move forward. You're more able to enjoy these really interesting states of meditation. And also seeing the positive qualities of meditation. Every time you have something a little bit nice, wow, this is really nice, and you learn, you get acquainted with that niceness. And as you do that, there comes a point when you don't want to go back to your ordinary self anymore. You kind of, oh no, I want to go back to that ordinary self. That's really terrible. I like to be meditating all the time. I don't know if you've heard these stories of people who have near-death experiences. You heard those stories? Some of those stories are really, really cool stories, and people kind of go out of their body, and they're so happy. Yay, out of the body, da-da-da-da-da, see the body, gone with the body. And then sometimes they are told, okay, you have to go back into the body again. And they don't want to go. No, I don't want to go back to that body. And they have no choice. It's like a trauma to have to go back to the body. And this is a little bit like that when you start enjoying your meditation. You don't want to come back to the ordinary state anymore. Yeah, this is kind of this, see the people just disappear, Ajahn Brahmali disappearing into his cave. Yeah, you know why. So maybe that's why Ajahn Brahmali is so heavy, just to make the body even worse. Yeah, so he gets even less interesting in being in the body. I don't know. It just occurred to me. I shall ask him when I see him next time. Yeah, see what he says about that. Anyway, so terror arose, or fear arose, then it fell away. Suppose a person was traveling along a road, and killers were to spring out at them from both sides. They would feel terrified because of that. Yeah, isn't that kind of amazing to compare the meditation to killers? That's kind of extraordinary, isn't it? But the point is that it is precisely this idea that you're killing, the ego starts to fall away, yeah? And that is actually the fear. It's the same fear as if someone is going to kill you, they're going to kill me, same kind of problem here. So then he will make sure that neither doubt, loss of focus, nor dullness and drowsiness, nor terror or fear will arise. While meditating, excitement arose in me. And because of that, my immersion fell away. When samadhi falls away, the light and vision of forms vanish. Excitement is because you have maybe been there before. You know how exhilarating and wonderful it can be to enter some of these states. You feel that you are on the edge. Yeah, I'm on the edge. Yay! Blown it already. So yeah, this is kind of the excitement. Yeah. And so this is a kind of a common problem in meditation. People crave for these things, and then that craving itself actually becomes the problem. But it's kind of pointless to crave. It's pointless to get excited because these things are out of your control anyway. You don't know whether they're going to happen or not. Yeah, you think you might be getting close, but actually you have no idea because the conditions and causes that make these things happen are so uncertain. It can be very hard to put down. So after a while, you say, "Okay, let's let it be here. I don't know what's going to happen anyway. So let me just chill and relax and enjoy whatever I have. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Most of the time, it doesn't happen anyway." And then you stop being excited because you understand actually it is completely out of control and it will only happen when the conditions are ready. And then you learn to just enjoy whatever happens. If you become a master of enjoying whatever happens in your meditation, the tiniest bit of peace, the tiniest bit of happiness, if you learn to enjoy that, then you are on the right track to overcome this thing we call excitement. Because whatever there is, which is nice, it is worthy of being enjoyed anyway. So that's what you do. Suppose a person was looking for an entrance to a hidden treasure, and all at once they come across 5 entrances. They will feel excited because of that. So 5 entrances may be a reference to the 5 jhanas. Yeah, the four plus the 1.5 jhana, so there's the 5 jhanas. Maybe, not sure. But the point is just that you come across something delightful. In the same way, excitement arose in me. I'll make sure neither doubt, nor loss of focus, nor dullness and drowsiness, nor terror, nor excitement will arise in me again. While meditating, discomfort arose in me. And this Pali word is dutulla. It's a little bit unclear exactly what it means, but discomfort seems to be a reasonable guess. And you still haven't gone fully beyond the 5 senses, so the body may perhaps occasionally intrude, or it can be a discomfort in terms of sound, maybe some kind of sensory discomfort of some kind. And it just shows us how important it is to be at ease in meditation, yeah? To have a nice posture that you can kind of keep for a long time. Sitting in a chair is fine, doing whatever is fine, as long as you're comfortable. The right posture is the comfortable posture. Not necessarily cross-legged, not necessarily on a chair, whatever. The right posture is the comfortable posture. So you make sure none of these things happen. While meditating, excessive energy arose in me. And because of that, my samadhi fell away. So this can be like a little bit too much striving maybe, a little bit too much willpower in there, and the energy becomes strong because of a little bit too much willpower, so you need to back off a little bit. And the way to overcome that excessive energy is simply to observe, to be passive, to be a passive observer. One of the great similes of Ajahn Brahmali is the passenger on the train. Yeah, you may have heard that before. The idea, you're on the train, but you're sitting in your seat and you're looking through the window. And what you're seeing in the window is bliss and happiness and samadhi nimittas. Yeah, this is what we're seeing through our window in meditation. And you just allow them to be here. You are not in charge. The conductor, the train driver, he's way up front somewhere. You have no idea what's going. Your job is just to sit and look at the scenery here. Whatever happens is fine. Yeah, so you don't fall for this excessive energy. But then you have the opposite. You have the lack of energy. I'll just go through all of this. Yeah, overly lax energy arose in me. And this is when you're losing that energy, and the reason you're losing your energy usually is because you're not enjoying it enough. So you need to kind of bring up the sense of enjoyment again. When you are enjoying things and really putting attention on the thing that is enjoyable, the energy comes because it is interesting. Yeah, it is something really worthwhile watching. So you kind of fire yourself up a little bit by enjoying what is going on. Suppose a person, I forgot the simile of the previous one, it got lost. Suppose a person was to grip a quail. A quail is like a small bird, too tightly in their hands. It would die right there. And this one here is, suppose a person was to grip a quail too loosely. It would fly out of their hands. Yes, that middle energy, the balance in energy. This is what you find in one of the suttas called the Sona Sutta, where the Sona is this fellow who has been brought up in a kind of very plush family again, very kind of everything was very, he got everything when he was a child, he didn't have to do anything at all, and his life was so relaxed, so easy, that he had hairs growing on the sole of his feet. Nobody has hair growing on the sole of the feet, right? It's kind of unheard of. Have you? No hairs. It's just, hair, we have hairs everywhere, but not on the sole and not in the palms of your hand. Yeah, no hair. So this was him, and so the king sent for him. Yeah, the king said, "Oh, I want to see this boy with no hairs on the sole of his feet." Yeah, so he was sent off to the king in a carriage, and his parents said, "When you go to the king, don't stick your feet out towards the king. Just sit cross-legged and kind of show the sole of your feet that way." Just like we don't stick our feet towards the Buddha, yeah, same idea. You don't stick them to the king. And then the king looked at his feet. Wow, no hairs on the feet. Yeah. And because of that, when he then went and did meditation, he became a Buddhist monk and he became a disciple of the Buddha. He started doing walking meditation, but because he was so soft, a super soft person, he started to bleed straight away. Yeah, because he had never, I don't know if he ever walked before, he started to bleed. And so the Buddha comes to his walking path and he said, "Your walking path looks like a slaughterhouse. What's going on? What have you been doing on this walking path?" And then he gives him this teaching on not straining too much and not being too lax, finding the middle kind of even tone, like a lute. When you play a lute is a string instrument. If the string is too slack or the string is too tight, you get a bad sound out of the lute. It has to be the medium tightness, just right, and then you kind of, I'm not going to make the lute sound, I can't do that. Then they just get the right sound out of that lute. And this is the same idea that you find here. That story is also found in the Vinaya Pitaka. So, anyway. So then you make sure that none of these things happen, and while meditating, longing arose in me. Abhijappa is the Pali word here. This is an unusual Pali word, but there it is anyway. Abhijappa. So I'll show you. This is kind of nice. So that's Abhijappa. If you go to, there's a website on the internet. This is the website here, called the Critical Pali Dictionary. This is one of the best dictionaries around. And you kind of whack Abhijappa in there, and you get Abhijappa, and you get the meaning. Aspiration, desire, it says there. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little bit small probably, but it's right there. This is, it's only a partial dictionary, but it has some of these things. Aspiration and desire is an alternative understanding here. Yeah, longing. So longing for results, perhaps, yeah? Aspiration is a bit like longing for results. So maybe you kind of are looking towards the future, becoming a bit restless, basically, not staying in the present. The point is that you have to have very sharp mindfulness in the present right now, otherwise it's not going to work. Longing is going to be a problem. So you let go of that longing and you just enjoy what you have. Same thing as before is the answer to this problem. Then he doesn't do any of those things. While meditating, perception of diversity arose in me. Yeah, while you are doing this, remember we are seeing one form and one light as one single thing. And if that goes into diversity, you have a problem. And this is also the answer to a very important question as well. And that is the question that often is asked: is it possible to experience the other 5 senses while you are in a jhana state or meditation state? Very often it is said, yeah, you can still hear and you can still do all of these kind of things in the jhana state. But if you can hear something, if you can see something, touch something, that is a perception of diversity. Because hearing is always changing. Hearing is not solid, it doesn't remain the same. So whenever there is a 5-sense perception apart from what is in the mind, it is by definition a perception of diversity. And that means any kind of unity of the mind, where you have either just a light and a vision of forms, or even more so if you are in a jhana state, it is absolutely impossible that it can have 5-sense experience. And this is one of those obvious kind of answers to that question. So the idea then is to bring the focus back on a single object, the single form, the single light, let go of the diversity and bring it back to that. Simplify your perception is the idea. The simpler it is, the more powerful it is to give you access to samadhi. While meditating, diligent, keen, and resolute, I perceived both light and vision of forms. But for long it vanished. It occurred to me, what's the cause, what's the reason why my light and vision of forms vanished? It occurred to me, excessive concentration on forms arose in me. And because of that, my immersion fell away. So what does that mean? I am not entirely sure, but it probably maybe means that you are focusing too much on the shape of what you're watching and you're kind of enjoying the shape. We are trying to move towards samadhi. Eventually you give up all senses of shape. And so the shape should really disappear gradually, and you kind of then you go into a jhana state eventually. Not entirely sure what that is, but it could be too much focus on the shape rather than just on the light. It is the light ultimately that takes you into deep states of meditation. I will make sure that neither doubt, nor loss of focus, nor dullness and drowsiness, nor terror, nor excitement, nor discomfort, nor excessive energy, nor overlax energy, nor longing, nor perception of diversity, nor excessive concentration of forms will arise in me. When I understood that doubt, and then it carries on. So I'll go a little bit longer just to finish this off. That gives you the various upakilesas, the various corruptions of the mind. And now the Buddha is going to summarize a little bit. So when I understood that doubt is a corruption of the mind, I gave it up. You look into these things, you understand that they are a problem, and then you give it up. When I understood loss of focus, dullness and drowsiness, fear, excitement, discomfort, excessive energy, overly lax energy, longing, perceptions of diversity, excessive concentration of forms are corruptions of the mind, I gave them up. So this is kind of the point here. While meditating, heedful, keen, and diligent, I perceived light, but did not see forms. I saw forms, but did not see light. And this went on for a whole night and a whole day, even a whole night and day. I thought, what is the cause? What is the reason for this? It occurred to me, when I don't focus on the foundation of the forms, but focus on the foundation of the light, then I perceive light. I do not see forms, but when I focus on the foundation of the light, when I don't focus on the foundation of the light, but focus on the foundation of the forms, then I see forms and do not perceive light. So the idea here seems to be that you need some kind of form and light together. That is the most powerful object to take you into samadhi. It's easy to focus on, and it can draw you into a samadhi. And if you don't have that, you need to find out why. And then you need to bring out those qualities that make this happen. This is kind of what this is about. the foundation of the form means that thing which brings it out, yeah? That cause, if you like, of the form. It's a little bit obscure, but something like that I think is what's going on. And this goes on for a whole day, a whole night, even a whole day and night. While meditating, heedful, keen, and diligent, I perceived limited light and saw limited forms. I perceived limitless light and limitless forms. This went on for a whole day, a whole night, a whole day and night. I thought, what is the cause? What is the reason for this? It occurred to me, when my samadhi is limited, then my vision is limited. With limited vision, I perceive limited light and see limited forms. But when my samadhi is limitless, then my vision is limitless. And with limitless vision, I perceive limitless light and see limitless forms. So the samadhi is like unbounded, yeah, not limited. There's a feeling of kind of things expanding, there being no boundaries in a meditation. Sometimes the meditation can feel more bounded, more limited. And this is when these things happen. So the idea is to make the mind as expansive as possible. Mahagata, apamana is the Pali word used here in this particular context. And this goes on for a whole night and a whole day, even a whole night and day. After understanding that doubt, loss of focus, dullness and drowsiness, terror, excitement, discomfort, excessive energy, overly lax energy, longing, perception of diversity, excessive concentration of forms, or corruption of mind, I had given them up. I thought, I've given up my mental corruptions. Now let me develop immersion in 3 ways. And now we get into the various ways of developing jhana states. And these things here are just an alternative way of talking about the jhana states. I'm not going to read it out because it will take too long. Is it interesting? Yeah, it's interesting, especially if you are getting in those areas. If not, it's kind of nice to know. Don't worry too much about it. So, yeah, then when you had developed these things in this way, then my freedom is unshakable. This is my last birth. Now there's no more future lives. So you can see here, it goes straight from the jhana development straight to becoming an arahant, which is kind of interesting, yeah? Nothing there with insight, nothing at all. And the reason for that is because when you attain all the 4 jhanas in this way, then your mind is so powerful that you are bound, more or less, to become an arahant. As long as you have right view, it's going to happen to you, whether you want to or not. And if you become an arahant, guaranteed you want to be an arahant. That's kind of the good news. Otherwise, you're in trouble. This is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, Venerable Anuruddha and his mates were happy with what the Buddha said. Okay, everyone, so let's take another break.